and welcome to Conscious Love. My name is Maria Appelqvist and I'm your host for this series where we're interviewing conscious couples, what it means to expand and create loving relationships and being conscious in loving relationships. With me today I have Antia and Broderick Boyd, who, I'm super happy that you are here. Antia and Broderick.
Yeah, we're happy to be here. Very excited to be here as well.
Yeah. And maybe starting with the question, what does consciousness mean to you?
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a big term. So consciousness to me means really in everyday life to be present and to also be responsible for your own emotions, right? Like for your own experience versus, for example, blaming or judging or projecting.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's really awareness of what you're doing, your patterns, and seeking to become more aware of why you do the things you do, and what's really going on under the surface, rather than taking the surface as that's all there is.
I love that. And I think that's really the cornerstone for the conscious couples coming together, is that there is some kind of growth in that by reflecting upon yourself and your partner being a mirror for you.
Yes, 100%. That in and of itself is like, being a conscious power couple, right? That in and of itself is like, you always say, like, if you want to spiritually grow, you want to do a relationship, you want to do your business together and have a baby, right? That's the 3 fastest ways to grow spiritually. You speed up your personal development.
How did you meet each other, and what attracted you to each other in the first place? Like, how did it all start?
So we both had similar journeys. I struggled in my dating and relationships before I met Antia, and so I had studied a lot and read about a lot of books and done a lot of seminars because of my breakup with my ex, and I really wanted to master this. And finally I started learning these skills of relationships and communications and masculine feminine dynamics, and we met each other. Antia had a similar journey because she had a hard childhood growing up and had attracted a lot of emotionally unavailable men and studied a lot as well. And so then we met each other in Hawaii. We met at a spiritual self-improvement workshop, and we just really connected very quickly. And because we had so much in common, because we had such similar journeys of struggling in our relationships, struggling in our dating, struggling in our communication, and finally figuring it out, and then being able to meet each other, and we had such a great connection. And shortly after that, got in a relationship, got married, and had started our business, and just became so passionate about wanting to help others to have amazing relationships as well, amazing, fulfilling, romantic relationships.
Yeah, and really what it was for me too was one thing that Brody said in the first night that we met. Like, first he told me that I'm the girl of the story, right? Within a couple of hours of us meeting. And then afterwards he said, we have this huge responsibility to humanity. And it just really struck me. It's like, oh gosh, this is great. I have my power partner now, right, in crime, but at the same time, there's like this responsibility that like now we're like, it's not just like bouncing off each other or feeding each other, but actually it's about like lifting up like the collective, right, and being like, hey, there's a reason why we two were guided together. And that just really struck me the night when we met.
Yeah, so I'm really sensing that it was something new. You had some experiences of past relationships that...
I was single my whole life.
Yeah.
I was single my whole life, because I attracted emotionally unavailable men, so never went anywhere, right? So either he left within like a couple of weeks, or I left because I was so anxious and there was so much tension and so much, just like aggravation inside of my system. I had to leave. Literally, like, to survive, to not drive myself crazy, right? So for me, it was really about, I always say that there's a couple of ways how women grow in relationships. One relationship after the other, where they really learn so much, what works and what doesn't. And then it's the other kind of woman who, for a heart reason, she's a very sensitive heart, right? and her heart would not be able to take devastating breakups like that. So she chooses to grow outside of relationships, to do workshops, to do seminars, and really grow independently, and will meet the man, even though she never had a long-term relationship before. And that was me.
Wow. So that was really, it was really something about when your inner word were ready, the Brody showed up in your life.
Yes. And it's so much about, like, it's not what you do, but who you're being, right? And that's so much about the internal work, increasing your beliefs. What energy are you sending out, right? So it's so much about not what people see on the outside, but what are you doing in your private space? How much are you meditating? What are you focusing on? What are you studying, right? And so I just knew for myself, because every time when I just like kind of tiptoed out a little bit, I saw what kind of man I was attracting. I'm like, no, not ready. It's still not aligned. It's still not, it's not a powerful, conscious relationship.
Were you at that point aware, like from the beginning, that this is something different, or like, what was the feeling or the emotions around that? Like, could you immediately discern this is the difference?
Yeah, I want to be really honest, because in the past I thought it's going to be fireworks. I'm going to be so excited. I'm going to be like, he's the one. And it was actually not the case, because my blueprint led me to those guys where I always felt crazy about them, but they were all toxic for me, right? They're not toxic, period. For another woman, they're great. And so when I met Brody, it was sailing. It was easy. You know, he just called, he followed up. There was no drama. So for a while, for me, it was like, what is this, right? Because it wasn't a friendship. We were physically attracted to each other, and we were spiritually aligned. But it was also, it didn't feel this crazy, like out of this world, you know what I mean? Like fireworks, right? Where, you know, every single second I'm thinking of him or whatever. It wasn't that either. So I literally felt a little bit like I'm in free fall. And I'm desperately looking for something to hold on to or relate to. And there was just nothing in my life. And I had a friend who told us years ago that when you meet your man, oftentimes he's nothing. He has no patterns that any guy that you've ever dated had before. And that's usually how you know that he's it.
I love this, and I would like to hear your version also, Broderick, because I know that you both have these specialities which you're also helping men and women to find the right one. So can we hear your version, Broderick, as well? Because I think this is for the listeners super interesting to really understand what's going on in the woman's mind and the men's mind. So how was it for you? Like when you saw Antia, like were you like, sure, this is the one, and you were just holding on to that, or how was it?
Yeah. So
hold on for life. Not going anywhere.
Like the masculine that actually knows what he wants.
Yeah, it was interesting because a lot of the work I had done, I did so much work up until the point of meeting Antia, and a lot of women that I dated and experiences that I had, things that I learned working with my dating coach that I had at the time as well. And so I learned really to become very clear about what I wanted. And so one of the things that I did is I had really written out a list of more like, I called it a story of what I wanted in my ideal relationship, my ideal woman. And there was other things in my story too, but those are a big part of it. And so when I met Antia, even that night when we met each other, like what Antia told you, as I told her, when I was with her, I just realized after we had talked for a while, and I just realized like, wow, this is the woman from my story. And I was like, kind of like surprised by that. And I actually told her, I said like, wow, you're like the girl from my story. And the thing was, I didn't really make it like a big deal. Like I acknowledged that she was like my dream girl, basically from my story. She was like all the things I was looking for. But I didn't make it like, because I learned that along my journey as well, is I didn't make it like a life or death thing now where, oh, now we have to propose to her, or how do I get her phone number, or how do I make sure that she, you know, this turns into something or something like that. I just was with it and in the process and enjoying the process. and let it just happen, and trusting all the skills, all the work that I've done on myself to just let it be, and to have that great connection, have that great relationship. And that's why it developed really organically between the two of us and became a really great, amazing, long-lasting relationship because of that inner work that I had done, and that process that I had gone through.
That's really wonderful to hear. And I'm curious, in stepping into this relationship, have you designed it in a way, or do you have some kind of routines or rituals that
Totally. Yeah.
Sustainability? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we did first of all, we did a shadow ceremony the night before our wedding.
Or do you mean before we met each other or after we met each other?
No, yeah, after you met each other, but also now in your everyday life now, how it is.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah, 1000%. Yeah. So, so we did a shadow ceremony before our wedding. And so, because we wanted to go into our wedding completely transparent and authentic, because what we've really seen over and over again is there's like this impression of you'll always be happy and everybody is, everything is glorious and sparkly, right? And in the meanwhile, that part inside of your head is like, you're right, I can be a bitch, Brody can get into his anger, or I can retreat, and we have all those parts, right? And so for me, it was all about how can we build a foundation of trust in our relationship, which that's really number one, right? And so we did a shadow ceremony and acknowledged each other's deepest, darkest fears and insecurities and all kinds of other demons or monsters that we all have, right?
So you really went deep into it in order to reveal it for each other.
Yeah. We were dressed in black. It was at night. We sat across from each other. I mean, this was serious, right? We really, and you know what? You're not doing it right if you don't feel uncomfortable. We really felt uncomfortable. We're like, oh, are we manifesting this, right? This feels so real, right? But I feel like the opposite happened because we took it into our actual ceremony. We acknowledged our deepest, darkest fears. It's on YouTube, right? So everybody can watch the ceremony because we really said, here we are. We're not trying to pretend something or that we're the soulmate, floating above the clouds kind of situation, but it's grounded, it's real, right? It's raw. And that really allowed us to have so much light and so much passion and so much growth in our life, right? And I mean, we have so many anchoring. We did our vow renewal ceremony every year. We just renewed it again in June. And I did a renewal of our shadow ceremony. And so really anchoring every year, right? Because I think so many couples are married and it's just all unconscious, it's all a blur. They're like, oh, it's been already 7 years and I don't even know who you are anymore, right? And for us, it's tapping in, really consciously tapping in with our community that we really highly select, right? Who are high vibrational and who can hold the space for us. Not that we look up to, but they actually can hold that container for us too. That when we have a moment, we have someone to go to, right? So we do that every year. And other than that, we really basically every day we do our own rituals. Really
Would you like to share what you do as a ritual every day?
So some of the rituals that we do every day. Also, one thing we do is every night before we go to bed, we say to each other, we ask each other what we're most grateful for from the day. So I think that's a very powerful ritual that we do every night.
What we like about each other, what we love about each other, that's it's sort of so in the flow. It's breathing to us at this point, right?
That's so beautiful. And I think it's so important for everybody to actually do their gratitude every day, but actually to do it as a couple is even more powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then also we're checking in with our parts. I mean, we have younger parts. So once a week we check in with our parts and we see how's that part of you doing that's really young, where they're at right now on a scale of 1 to 10. And how can I help that part to enhance or to be more self-expressed? Or, what about the sensual part of you? Where are they on a scale of 1 to 10? So we check in with all the different parts that we have inside of us. Right. So because another thing that I see when people start becoming really angry or filing out divorce all of a sudden, is because there's a major neglect of at least one part that totally went unconscious. right? Because the brain deletes, distorts, and generalizes reality all day long. So we have all those sort of like checkpoints, those like check markers, right? Like, so we can't miss it. You know, there's no way. Yeah, we also do our individual affirmations and meditations together too, right? So once a week we go do a deeper meditation together. We do hypnosis at night together, and several times a week. And just also like incantations, we do them together too. So whatever we want to manifest.
Wow, that's really powerful. Have you ever had any challenges, and how have you handled them?
You think, no, we're like never had any challenges, you know?
Yeah.
We are so human, right? Do you want to talk about
definitely. Well, yeah, well, that's actually, that's where I was going to go to too, with the last question you asked, because I feel like we've developed a lot of good rituals as well for managing conflict, which is, I think, really powerful, really helped us to have a great relationship, including like communication tools that we use to navigate conflicting situations or when a lot of charge or negative energy comes up. We have communication tools, we have embodiment things that we'll do, helping each other to clear negative energy out of our bodies and our emotions. We have things that we do with that to really help get ourselves away from being triggered and releasing the emotion in a healthy, productive way rather than on each other. You know, doing damage to each other. Like what I think a lot of couples do is they get triggered by something, or one of their needs isn't getting met, or something's bothering them, and then they will project that onto their partner and basically attack their partner for things, and it does damage the relationship over time. When it's not actually about their partner, it's just about something inside of them that may be having to do with work, it may have to do with their kids, it may have to do with themselves, that they can have addressed. And if the partner is aware of that and they have rituals around that, you build rituals around it, then you can actually hold containers for each other so that doesn't happen, actually brings you closer. So yeah, so yes, we do have conflict come up pretty often, but it's like with the tools we've developed and the kind of understanding we have, it actually, we tend to use those conflicts as a vehicle
for transformation,
to help each other to grow, and to be able to look at ourselves and what's really bothering us, and be able to also negotiate whatever we need to negotiate if one of us isn't happy with something, but in a constructive way. Yeah,
I feel like when we have a conflict, it's almost like it feeds into our bigness and our intensity and our brightness. And I post so much about that on Facebook. And it's not just the positive brightness, right? It's also like the anger, the fury, the sadness, the grief, right? And all of the emotions. And I think a biggest piece is you know, for me, it's like I'm really watching out for Broderick's heart. So like a couple of days ago, I got really irritated because he didn't go into a state fast enough that I wanted him to go in. And I felt myself starting to feel helpless. And so what I did, I yelled at him, right? It was just like maybe less than a minute, right? Because I caught myself. And my rule is, when I yell, that to me is actually a sign that I'm hitting a wall. Like there's like a sense of powerlessness, right? So we don't have like any mental or physical or like any emotional abuse here. And so I made amends to him, right? So first of all, I talked to a girlfriend and cried and saw what was there for me. So worked on myself first, right? And then went back to him and made amends, right? It just really made amends. And I think the biggest thing for me is I always imagine like the inner boy being hurt. And I'm very protective of this inner boy, right? So I never want him. It's like if we have kids, right? So somehow we will have kids, like I would feel heartbroken, you know, if my child is like sitting in the corner and feels like really hurt because I just yelled at him or her, right? So that's like, I think a big distinction is like how important is your partner and the parts, how much are you actually watching out for them versus just watching out for yourself.
It's really beautiful to hear because I'm so hearing how it's like everything that happens, you see it as a source of information to look inside yourself.
Yes, and it's like, how can this be a breakthrough, right? Like, I think for me, a biggest thing is like, I'm such a nerd when it comes to like transformation. I mean, I want to use like every little opportunity for transformation and a breakthrough, right? Even like when I have like an argument with somebody else or business-wise or anything, I'm always like, okay, let's get on the phone and create a breakthrough, right? Like, how can we create a transformation here, right? And because I really believe life is like a two-sided coin, you know, there is like a challenge and there's an opportunity. I 1000% believe that. And when you look for that and see, how can I be grateful? How can I be grateful for the situation, right? To be like, oh, I can be grateful that I was blind to this anger I have inside of me, or I was blind to my resistance to feeling helpless and powerless. And there's actually an invitation for me to surrender, which I tend to sometimes have a little bit of a challenge with, right? And so you can just go on, and it turns into this like long Facebook post, or you know, something like channel it into something really powerful. And then of course, it's so perfect for our clients, right? Like the next moment I have like 2 coaching calls, and it's exactly what my clients needed to hear. So I always love that sense of alignment and oneness too, that happens like immediately. And they literally say, oh God, like I just needed to hear that. I'm so glad you're my coach. I'm like, well, you don't even know, you know, what I just went through to give you that information.
Wow. Can we talk about sex life?
Yeah, 100%.
What's different in this relationship from your previous experiences?
You know, it's really interesting because I had really like sexual blocks. I will say that, like, because I always had men who wanted more sex than me, and I always thought like I'm gonna end up, you know, I'll just like, you know, women just have to kind of like put up with it, right? They're just gonna make it work. And Brody is so congruent inside of himself that, you know, like it's almost like we have like the same amount of sex drive, right? It's like, you know, sometimes I even have a little more because I feel so safe with him. And I really saw my pussy really transform, like really opening up, that I did not expect. I did not expect. I just like never even visualized that at all, right? I just thought this is the kind of life I'm gonna have, and this is just women, that's just normal. It's just reality that men want more sex, right? But also it's very conscious, right? So when we're in orgasm, we always affirm. We always do affirmations, right? Like when I'm in orgasm as well as when Brody's in orgasm, and we fill each other up with those affirmations. And we know what it is, you know, based on what we circled through in a week, right? If somebody needs to feel safe or empowered or influential or the leader, and it's fun, you know, and I can see his energy moving, and I'm like, feel it in your throat and feel it here and feel it there, and I'm like, it's half of an activation. It's hilarious, you know. I mean, obviously there would be never cameras in our bedroom, but it would be hilarious if there were, because it's sort of like a spiritual, a ritual and a sexual ritual, like at the same time, you know. Yeah.
You're really using your sex life as a way of manifesting what you want to see happen.
Yeah, 100%. And also, see, so many times I see women like emasculate men.
Okay, we're back here again. So this is what happens when you're doing your online business and you're interviewing people and traveling, and breakups happen. So we're continuing the conversation today. We're back again, Antia and Brody. We had such a great conversation about what it means to be a conscious couple, and I know that you just came out from Harvard speaking about power couples. So maybe starting there, because power couples is a different term of framing what it means to be conscious in love and as a conscious couple. Maybe you want to say something about that.
Yeah.
Yes. So so it's really all about being conscious with our dark and our light. Right? So it's about like, how are you being with your insecurities? You know, how are you being when something comes up that you judge? And I talked about, I have a temper, you know, I can have some anger eruptions because I get attached to things sometimes. And if they don't work out the way, you know, I desire them to, you know, there's like a room for me to grow, right? And it's about like, how am I being with that? How does my own awareness play into my communication with my partner, right? With Brody. And because, you know, the shadows and insecurities, they happen to all of us, right? So it's not so much about judging ourselves for that, but like, how do you handle that? Like, how do you acknowledge that? And how, where are you and how much responsibility do you take?
Wonderful. And we went over to the conversation about sex. So can we continue there?
I love that, from Harvard to sex. Exactly. But there was an expert there at Harvard too.
Yeah,
so,
and Harvard is all about entrepreneurship and making money. And in order to make money, there is a connection between sex and money.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
How have you faced that in your life, that connection?
Yeah, so we love to actually implement, affirmations, incantations, activations into our orgasmic experience, right? Because again, we talk about consciousness and really being conscious in the boardroom and in the bedroom. And so many people, they just kind of forget that part when they enter the bedroom, right? So we're really thinking about, gosh, when you're in such an orgasmic state, this is like the highest state of connection, of ecstasy, and to just not only visualize, but really to say, so I know what Brody wants to hear, and he knows what I want to hear, what I really want to claim for myself, my desires, right? So we do that for each other, and it's really intensifies the experience, it grounds it much more, and it brings absolutely more presence and power to the whole experience, right? Because now we're completely integrated. Now our desires, not just in our morning affirmations or in our meditations, but also in our sexuality.
Yeah, so I agree with what everything Antia said. It's really about using orgasm as a way to send messages to each other about the next level of growth that you see for each other, and doing that as a partner. So when the other partner is having their orgasm, to be saying affirmations like you're powerful, you're beautiful, you're wealthy, you're sexy, you make
you're a leader,
yeah,
you're influential,
you make $1 million a year, right? Or whatever your financial goals are. And so that you're really feeding each other's subconscious in those moments. So that's how one of the big ways we use sex in our relationship, to help each other to grow, also to grow each other closer together and more on the same track, and to really be affecting each other's subconscious in the next level that we see for each other.
That's really beautiful. I was having a conversation with someone today that was looking for sacred sex, and I said, well, that's the like advanced level of really understanding unionship. So would you say that that is actually expression of sacred sex?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's what I feel. That's what it really is, right?
Yeah.
To bring that divine presence to sexuality and not shame it, right? Because back then in Avalon and Atlantis, right? I mean, there were high priestesses who did like initiation, so this was normal, right? Until it started to get shamed, and of course we had the witch hunts and so on, right? So there was a lot of like suppression, because there is a lot of power. There's a lot of creative power in the universe, and it's the highest creative power in the universe.
I'm curious, is this like sexual consciousness and this awareness, is this something you developed together as a couple, or was that something you had before you actually met each other?
I got it like from several like coaches that I worked with before, but it also fed into my existing sexuality as a Scorpio. So I was also like really receptive to it, and I could move it through, right? Like I'm really connecting with this, and then I think the biggest piece happened, and then you could speak for yourself too, right? But I felt like when I came together with Brody, it took on a different level, because there's such a synergy that happens, like such a symbiosis. It's like a concoction, almost, if you will, right? An energetic concoction that happens that I would never be able to by myself, for sure.
Yeah, I didn't really have it until we got together and we started going on this deeper path together. I had never had that kind of, I was never taught those things until we met each other. And then we took some courses together, actually, where I started learning more about it and got deeper, and she taught me stuff as well. So that's for me, I kind of picked it up as we got together. She had more of the learning than I did going into our relationship. But we keep going deeper too, and we keep exploring the next levels and different ways of using it. And yeah, and so we continue to explore that.
Yeah.
still.
So I'm feeling it's like this is an area where you are growing as a couple together, and you're also continuing exploring it. And
yeah, we continue exploring it together, and
because there's always like the next edge or the
yeah,
next, like uncomfort piece. So for me right now, it's really about not rushing so fast to an orgasm, to actually hold it like a queen, right? Like a queen has like a lot of space. She doesn't have to talk right away all the ideas she has, but she holds it. It's like she's like pregnant with the idea. And so like the next growth edge for me right now is that holding that in sexuality as well, and moving that through my body while like my Scorpio self wants to just like release and be done with it, right? And so it's oftentimes like the opposite. Is actually like slowing down. It's actually like up and being with like what's coming up for me when I'm in this uncertainty, right? With all the sexual desire and all the sexual juice.
Yeah. So yeah, is there something more we should talk about, or something you would like to add to this conversation about conscious couples that you think we haven't covered?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what we covered it before that.
Yeah.
But we talked about interdependence.
Yeah, we talked about interdependence, cultivating a powerful interdependence. I believe we talked about masculine and feminine polarity.
Yeah. And I'm also hearing you're speaking about structures, how you have created for yourself different kind of structures that bond you together as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. So many, watching our mind movie together and doing prayers together and doing gratitudes together. And yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. This is also a pattern I'm seeing that couples I'm interviewing, that's a part of what it means to be a conscious couple. Yeah. So
the biggest piece is too, what I'm noticing too with our growth is that, I tend to just like healing energy like moves through me, and all of a sudden I'm called to move the energy in a certain way, like, after Broderick does maybe an awakening session. And so it feels good, right? To just have, I just have like trusting myself more, like what affirmations are coming through me for him, or what healing, sometimes he just says like, what do you hear? Like, what do you feel needs to be reconnected or reintegrated? And so it's like trusting my inner priestess more, right? And actually going beyond our already existing, sort of structure, and actually like, how far can we push this? Like, and we need to, are we attached to the structure? You know what I mean? Like you can have structure, but then also, are you ready to, expand the structure when the time comes through, right? And so that's another piece that we're experiencing right now, where I'm doing all kinds of interesting rituals with Brody, and in total trust, right? It's totally congruent and aligned, and not knowing, what's going to happen tomorrow, right?
I'm also feeling that so when you came together, you were like you're having your own individual ideas of a business, but then you have actually grown together also as a couple and also in your business. So please share with us what you are up to as a couple in your business, which is also something that is an expression of the relationship you're having, right?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So a lot of things that we're up to is, just continuing to grow together. And that's one of the power couple principles we teach a lot of, is just the concept of never-ending growth, right? You never stop growing. There's always a higher level. Relationships and dating, they're skills. They're skills that anyone can master, and just skills that can continue to go to higher and higher levels. And so we're always looking for those higher levels. And now what we're starting to do more is coaching couples as well as singles on creating an amazing relationship that lasts, that's loving, that's supportive, that continues to help each partner to grow to their highest potential. It's connected on all levels, and making a difference in the world as well, making a dent in the universe, as Steve Jobs would say. So how can your relationship make a dent in the universe? And that's something that I'm passionate about, and we're both passionate about, is really using your relationship as that creating that relationship that becomes a gift that inspires other people around you, your kids, your family, your relatives, your coworkers, people that you know, so that you're lifting everybody up with you and creating a better world to live in and giving them models for what that looks like. So that's what I feel is the next evolution for us. What we're working on now is really creating the template, creating a model of how to have this kind of power couple relationship, how to create an amazing relationship that lasts, that's loving, that's inspiring others around you and changing the world.
Yeah.
And then creating that ripple effect. So that's a big thing of what we're working on now and developing better ways to do that. And being that inspiration for others.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. And I'm seeing this is a shift also because in the traditional way of thinking in business, the best thing I've heard about treating the business is like treating the business as a part of the family, because otherwise it will be something that separates you from the rest of the family. But what I'm hearing is for you coming together and saying like, here's like as a couple, you have an expression of something and let's bring that expression out, and that creates ripple effect.
Yeah, totally. And it's funny you say that, because I always talk to Antia. I use that language usually of thinking of our business as our baby, you know, as our child or something like that, where we're nurturing it. And it is part of the family, and it actually brings us closer together because it all is so intertwined. And I remember somebody once told me the 3 biggest things you can do in your life to grow yourself the fastest. So personal development, we're talking about personal development, would be 1, getting married, and getting married is the first one, or having a exclusive committed relationship. Number 2 is having kids, if you're going to do that in the relationship. And number 3 would be having a business. So if you do all 3 of those together, I mean, that's the most intense personal development program you can do, and one of the most powerful, because all of your stuff is going to come up to be able to work on it and to grow yourself to a higher level. And because you have to, and that's what happens in the business. It's also intertwined, that you use the business, you use the relationship, you use raising kids, if you're doing that as well, as a vehicle for you to grow and for your whole family to grow, or everybody around you to grow, because it is all interwoven and it is all part of the same fabric and same conversation. And it should be, because you are showing up in all those things. You are the common denominator in all those things. And when you grow and it's helping you to grow, you affect all of that around you.
How do people find you?
Yeah, so basically, if you want to go deeper, if you want to learn more how to master your relationships, you can go to our website, where right now we're offering complimentary sessions. Or you want to tell them a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so they're really about, like, you know, magnetizing the man on all levels to you, and really seeing like what are the particular, you know, patterns that you have developed over the years, protective mechanisms, defense mechanisms that are oftentimes unconscious, and they're just really interwoven. And really also looking at, you know, how connected are you with the reality that you want to create, specifically emotionally. We talked a lot about embodiment today, right? So it's specifically there, and look at what is really that in between gap that really keeps you from having an intimate relationship that you really desire to have.
Yeah, so if you're a lady, you can sign up with Antia. I'm also working with men very selectively, or if you're a couple, if you're the man coming to start the process, come to me, or if you want to go to Antia. And you can go to our website to sign up for that right now, or we're offering them complimentary as well to discuss that, because we really want to make a big impact in the world and help as many people as we can help. So go to FindTheOneElite.com is our website, FindTheOneElite.com, or you can go to AntiaandBrody.com as well. We'll take you to the same page. ANTIA and BRODY.com for be able to get access to our calendar. You can sign up for that call with us. We'd love to help you.
That's really wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences and wisdom with us. And it was really a delight. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, Maria. It was great to be on your show. We loved it.